Last session of the day, so I thought we'd do something a little casual, just so that your brains aren't too fried for the big pub crawl tonight. Get those lyrics clear in your head for karaoke. So in one of the meetings, I'm not even sure which one it was, but somebody said to me, well, why don't you do a session and get all the chapter chairs together and have a chat, talk about what's going on and what chapter chairs do, and allow you guys to maybe meet them. They're very active. They're a big part of our value offer to our membership. And even more important than that, when the chapters were created, Mike, 3 years ago, about roughly, a big part of it was spreading the association across the country, getting regional, provincial participation, dealing with regional issues, and how could we do that? And I think it was Steph, I'm pretty sure, that said chapter chairs, or chairs is the way to go, regional chapters, sorry. So they were born, and these 7 wonderful people currently are the chairs for our chapters across the country. So I'm going to try and do this west to east. So if you could just give us a little bit about who you are, who you work for, how long in the industry, and why you're a regional chair.
Thank you, Terry. My name is Kyle Cartwright. I am with Westech Windows and Doors. I have Terry. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Is it too loud? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Gallery over there.
Yeah. It's a fireside chat. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I've been with Westech 13 years, in Windows and Doors for 21, 22 years now. And I've been chair of the Pacific chapter for a year and a half. This will be the end of my final 2-year run. I got involved with Fenestration Canada through Terry, and in the Pacific chapter before there was a chapter within the first meetings. So it was nice to be a part of that and carry the chair on and then pass it on in the next little bit here. So very important for me, not only as a window and door person, as a Westech employee and a FenCan member, to be involved in the industry in some way. And I think that this is a good way, if not the best way for me, with all the insight coming from other people across Canada, and also to stay on top of codes and regulations coming down the pipe. We're often quite ahead of them. I think that it's also good for me to see participation in my region, in BC and on the Pacific Coast. Not only that, but to see uptick from others that you wouldn't typically see on items, or not in items and in areas like this. So I'm happy to be involved. I will continue to be involved when my time as chair is over. To what capacity, we'll see.
Good show. Thank you. Nicole Bird, our Prairies chapter chair. Got a mic? Right here. Round button.
I think that one has to be off. Hi. So Nicole Bird, I chair the Prairies chapter with Colin Campbell. And I started with low-end windows. I've been selling them for almost 22 years. But in the last 12 years, I took over ownership of the window center in Edmonton and expanded. So I have a full design company, RSVP. And I just, we host.
No worries. It's all good. Jean Liu, chapter chair of Manitoba, formerly Fenestration Manitoba.
Yeah. So my name is Zhen Liu. I'm the co-chair for Fenestration Canada in Manitoba chapter. I've been in fenestration industry for over 20 years and involved with Fenestration Canada, and previously was Fenestration Manitoba. Last year was very exciting year for both organizations because Fenestration Manitoba merged into Fenestration Canada as a local chapter, and I was appointed as the local co-chair. Very excited, and the reason I want to be involved, I have a strong feeling of, Manitoba, we have a very strong window manufacturing industry. We need to have a strong voice in this industry, and I think for that reason, I got involved. I want to collaborate with other companies in this industry and learn the new things and keep updated, and also contribute my knowledge to everyone else.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Mr. Bruno, Ontario Chapter Chair.
So if anyone doesn't know me, they haven't been coming to these events long enough. As co-chair of the Ontario chapter, that was one of the first ones to, I think it was under my presidency that
Yes.
the regional chairs came up. The important part of it was to reach out to our local. We thought if we had feet on the ground, similar to a sales team, sales organization, supplier organization on the ground, that those members or that leadership could go out and reach the people in their backyard and bring them all together. It's been challenging, I would say, in Ontario, predominantly one of the most challenging parts. I think we've had great support from the rest of the country. Eastern Canada would have probably been our strongest at the beginning. Really great engagement. Some great leaders that took over that, and that was kind of why I stepped into the Ontario chair, was to kind of bring more people to the table. I've been in this business full-time since 1997. I'm 49 years old, so I say I'm in the business for 40 years, longer than some of the people are old here, because we have a lot of young people in this industry. But the important part of the association, whether you're a larger company or a smaller company, is the networking of people, the great friends that made across the country. The regional engagement is so important because it's the opportunity to work on challenges within our area. I've said this before, and I'm sure people have heard it, but if you feel that you're running your business by being in the business of your own business and not being involved at the association level, you will not have a business to run. It is that simple.
Amen.
That's where I leave it at. Yep. So spread that word across the country, because you'll have nothing to run. Zero.
Thanks, Mike. Samuel St. Pierre with the Quebec chapter.
Hi. Yeah, Samuel, I've been working in this industries for 20 years now. Started with Boulanger. Was a salesman for Boulanger on wood component. Now with Thermoplast. Been with Thermoplast for 7 years. I joined FenCan, having invitation by Stefan. I've been with this chapter for now 3 years. Become co-chair, I think 6 months ago. I've got the offer from Stefan, and I'm happy to be a chair. And main reason for me is to learn a lot about the industries. Wood component compared to PVC extrusion. I think extrusion is a lot more technical, and it gives me a chance to learn about everything that is happening on the doors and windows, what's coming, what's the rules that are coming, and to do a better job with my customers, and hopefully help them, and so that they learn from me also on the technical side of this industries.
Great, thanks. Alan Doyle, he's trying to get away, but still here with us. Currently just stepping out of being the chair for the Atlantic region.
Exactly.
Alan.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. So I have an anniversary date coming up in a couple of days on May the 30th. That was my first day in the window and door industry. That year was 1983. So if you guys can do the math. I took over as a co-chair with of the Atlantic Committee with Greg Dickey, 2 years ago after basically a 12-year run on the board, and which was, I'm going to say, some of the best time I've ever had in this industry was those years, just from I'd say the contacts, the friends, the learning, I'd say the personal growth. I mean, it was a great opportunity. And I probably 12 years ago, I could have been thinking about starting to slow down, but it was almost like, felt like things started to speed up for me a little bit. So, and that's the one thing about this coming to these meetings and coming to the association. It's like, I'll stop coming when I stop learning. And that's what I always find. It's like, if you say, why do you be involved, or why should you be involved in your chapters or come to the national? Because you're always learning. And so Ron said, why do you remember? I don't know. Well, that's it, because you're always here to learn. You don't know everything, so that's why you're here. And I think that's kind of sums it up for me. And I don't know when I'm going to stop coming.
Always welcome.
But
always welcome.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's why I will probably continue to come back, because it does feel like this is a welcoming group, and I'm always proud to say I'm part of it. And this is my last moment as the chair, and Greg, it's the same thing for him. And we pass the coach at the new co-chairs of the Atlantic Committee will be Danielle Chasson and Zach Bannister.
Yep. Looking forward to working with them for sure. Well, thanks, Ellen. So a couple of years ago, Steph, in Steph's usual fashion, it's full speed ahead. What's next? What can we do? And we were talking about, missing the commercial industry in our association, and what could we do? And, we need to make that a bigger push into working with the commercial glaziers industry. At the same time, coincidentally, Mr. Ferco here, Mr. Rich Ferco, him and I go back to FenBC days back in 12. And he was actually doing some sort of low level, feeling out there what's going on in the BC market, and is there opportunity for a commercial chat or commercial association in BC. I got wind of it. You and I had a chat, and that came to be the new commercial chapter of Fenestration Canada. Rich has been very involved. He's with us today representing and talking about the commercial chapter, but Brent being the current chair. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, so Brent Friesen from Visionaire Window Systems is our chapter chair. He is awesome, and no way am I trying to take his thunder. But yes, I've been in the industry for 23 years, 22 years. Love fenestration. I love the commercial glazing. I was trying to start something because there was definitely a gap, especially at the federal level, or the national level, I should say. So this has helped fill that gap for sure. And as I mentioned earlier today, the more we're doing, the more we're being noticed, and the more people want to get involved. And I always tell people, this is back from the old GCA days, when you're trying to get specifically glazers involved, they say, "Oh, we can't come. We're way too busy." And then when things slow down, they're like, "Oh, we can't come. It's way too slow." So trying to get people involved, is always a struggle with every association. But it's definitely, you can feel the momentum. Never let a crisis go to waste.
Where is he?
He's right behind you. Yeah.
There you go. Good show. Okay, thanks. So I'm going to leave it open to you guys to answer and chime in as I go through a few thoughts that I had talking about or thinking about the chapters and where I've seen them, start out at nothing and evolve and maybe devolve occasionally. So open to whoever wants to chime in on this. So how often do you guys meet? Because there's lots of people in this room that have probably never been to a chapter meeting, which is disappointing, which was another reason for getting you guys up here to to pitch your cause and to get people involved. So how often do you meet, online, in person? And then what's your participation level? Like, what are you seeing from when we started, if you were the chair initially, to where we are over the last couple of months? Mike, I'm going to talk to you first, even though I was going to leave it open. I know Mike has things to say on that, because Ontario has really seen a lot of evolve.
Oh, for sure. So when we first started, we did get that 20 to 30. We meet between 2 to 4 times a year in person and virtually. What I find in Ontario is you need a cause. So the tariff cause was a good one. Everyone came on there and thought it was important to be part of it. My ability was I was able to bring in more of the C-suite and hire people on the call that kind of make those calls on whether they should attend or not. But we've seen this Ontario chapter go from 25 people in a good cause to literally the chairs and the FedCan staff. Like it really got that bad. And the comment I made to earlier, you can be working on in your business, and that's the most important thing to do. But I'm telling you, you're not going to have a business to run in the future. I mean, if FenCan and Adrian and the team at FenCan didn't do what happened in the last 6 months, and with the support of the board, finally lobbying, a lot of people think that the board doesn't want to fight, doesn't want to do this stuff. We do want to. We constantly do, and we discuss. I would say discuss and against each other at the board level. We want to take a proactive approach. But what our members in the regional, and Ontario being the largest percentage of manufacturers in Canada, what they don't realize is that we need the voices, right? So you can complain, like Ron was saying yesterday, you say, why do we come? Why do you do this? But if you don't attend and it's the chair or just FenCan or just the board speaking, they turn around and they say, well, where are the numbers? We had a situation in Ontario where we actually found a project that we were, as FenCan, we were 99% sure that this product didn't meet the requirements. And as FenCan, we actually sat down with the mayor of the city and the head of the building code officials, and they told us they would do nothing about it. To the point where they said, but Mike, you're the only one complaining. I'm like, I'm not here as Everlast. I'm here on behalf of FenCan, but I can have 70 people reach out to you on Monday if you want to complain about it. And they want to know part of it. But in reality, if I reached out to our members in Ontario and I said, I need 70 to call the city and file a complaint or do an email, I'd be lucky if I got 7 people to respond. And that's the problem. So you want us to do something. We go out, we spend money to do it, we put the human capital, the financial resources to do it, and then everyone goes mute. And I'm not mute in any way, in any means, but so that's what it is. So we've seen that, and I think for Ontario, if we don't have a cause, like a real big problem, the participation is almost non-existent, and that's the sad reality.
Yeah. Talk a bit more about that as well. But anybody else on, participation, activities, how often you guys meet? Have you seen it vary over the last bit, Sam?
Yeah. For us in Quebec, it's a bit different. We have another association, which is called the AVFQ, and they're doing a really, really good job. So, and I'd say that most of the doors and windows manufacturer are member with this organization already. So our main goal for the Quebec chapter is we've been discussing about it, is to find a way to bring some member and offer something a bit different than the other association are doing. And it's never been to compete with them, because as I said, they're really good and we don't want to take anything from them. We just want to try to find a way to do something different. So it's been a challenge to have more members. So we're talking about what can we do about it. We meet about 2 to 3, 4 times a year. Yeah. Over by team meetings or on yeah, exactly. So that's the challenge for us in Quebec is to by having another association, it's a challenge.
Sure. Yeah. Kyle?
Yeah. So for the Pacific chapter, we meet virtually monthly, and then we have 1 to 2 live events. We piggybacked on the CGC this year and had our Pacific chapter live event the day before. And I think generally speaking, we have a very strong core group that would attend these monthly meetings, many of whom are in the room right now. And something that I thought was positive at our live event actually was the amount of people who were there, who attended physically, who are not generally in the meetings, virtual meetings. I think we had 35, 40 people maybe,
Yeah.
if that's the number. And maybe 90% of them are not attending every month. So there is some uptick with that. We just need to maintain that on a monthly basis and keep them coming back, and then hopefully that kind of translates down. And maybe perhaps some of that, I just want to make a comment. I was born in 1983. So there's a slight age correlation there. So maybe we need more of that.
Yeah, the commercial group, we also meet every month. I would say it's seasonal, and I'd also echo that we have a core group of members that attend every month, and then, after, so we're averaging probably 25 or 30 attendees for every meeting. So I'd say half of that would be the core group that's there every meeting, and the other half of that would be change from meeting to meeting. Comes down to Carrie Mobius from would say the drum to beat. And so whatever that pain point, if it's a pain point, happens to be, we found a lot of interest in our recruiting. So our glass and glazing recruiting task group, it's something, and it's open to everybody in this room as well. It's not just for commercial glazing, but that has been one of the focuses that we've had that's got a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Anybody else? Nick?
We meet we alternate between Edmonton and Calgary, and we meet about 2 times a year, and those events are really well attended. But our online, we meet about 4 times a year, and it's a real struggle to get people engaged unless there's a cause. But yeah, it's tough.
For sure.
So we'll have the new chapter here.
Have you
so,
met yet? Yeah, I'm teasing.
So in the past, I believe Fenestration Manitoba, they have summer golf and Christmas event. Since we merged to Fenestration Canada, I think we had probably by every 2 months we have a meeting. We're still trying to standardize this and get more members involved. I think the last November was our first chapter meeting. And after that, we met with the provincial government, Efficiency Manitoba, and it was a very important meeting to have with the government to make sure they have the proper program for our fenestration industry in Manitoba. Now, after that, we start to prep FunCon. With a very, very short notice, we were able to put together the FunCon conference, which is the first time in last 6 years. It was very well attended, very significant event for our region. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, the Manitoba interest has really been really positive, really accepting and embracing Fenestration Canada. So that's great. Alan, anything you want to add to participation and activity?
Yeah, the Atlantic region, we probably do about 5 virtual events, and we do 1 in person, and that's what we've been doing. The virtual events get only maybe about 10 to 12 people out, but the in-person events, we're getting over 20 for those. So I think usually what we, it's probably we advertise the agenda's a little bit better advertised for when the in-person event, and we promote a little more, and I think that's why we're getting more. And then just when the online events, I think it's just really just wherever shows up, wherever can there, and it seems to be more of a the the association pushing information out to the members for those events, and a lot of times the members aren't coming with issues that are challenging us. So, and I think that's probably the one thing I would like to see more is, like, say, I'm sure that we're not all having great days every day with the codes and regulations the way they're being interpreted today. So I would expect a little bit more coming from the members that would and use the committees to do that. I really think that should be the way it goes. I mean, we have an advantage in Atlantic is that we do have a building inspector on our committee who is just a great asset for us, and so maybe that's some of the reason why they seem to come there and get answers, and that's helpful for them. Actually, Terry cited him in when Joe Rogers was on the stage this morning. He's actually taken the issue that we have, and he's put together a document that we actually can get our teeth into. So that's go ahead. Yeah. No.
But that was why the chapters were created, was to get that pull through to the chairs who could report to the board to execute, right? And so we don't get a ton of that in Ontario. We hardly get any from manufacturers. But, we really don't get any from suppliers either, right? And I'm sitting around the room here and I see a lot of great suppliers. I mean, suppliers that, support this industry. And then we have our public relations guy over there, Pat, they call you now? No, yeah. Patrick. But, I think the suppliers might be a better voice for those chapter chairs than the actual manufacturers. I think they can see the challenges that are happening over in a certain area, over a number of manufacturers. I'd really like to see the suppliers bring us a little bit more challenges that they're seeing on the marketplace. And maybe that's how we drive the agenda, the need, the want, the requirements. Like I've never thought of it that way, because we always thought we were going to get that information driven by the manufacturers, but maybe it's the suppliers that are actually a better angle for us. We just want some information, whatever it is, sure. Yeah. That's kind of what we're looking for anyways. Yeah.
So obviously a common theme that we hear from you guys and that we see, of course, is this difficulty in driving participation for whatever the reasons are. In the last couple of years, membership's gone up 25%, 30%, maybe something like that, which is obviously great. But why are we not seeing that trickle down to the chapter meetings? Like, what, you've talked about, what do we need? How do we get these people to spend an hour with us every couple of months? What do we do, Mike? How do we get those guys? Is it the suppliers? I mean, that's an interesting angle. It's not something I thought about.
I think the suppliers is a very good way of doing it. I mean, they can help sell the message, right? But I think FenCan's doing a good job on selling what we're doing, and that's why people see the value in it. And we've seen larger attendances at our AGM and larger attendances at Windor. It goes back to, I became president during COVID, right? So everyone's busy, their business is booming, it's expanding, it's going great. And in the moment, the most important part was their business. And we come out of that. Now there's a little, there's a downturn in tariffs. In this moment, they're in their business. And they don't realize that there's so many factors going around them, if they just stop and think, that are going to affect their business. Maybe positively, but mostly negatively in the last, call it 8 months, 9 months, right? And I just feel it's a mindset. I truly believe it's a mindset. True leaders see where they need help in their own, in themselves, and my business is an extension of myself, and find where my weaknesses are, and you go and ask for help. And it's kind of a pride thing. I think in Ontario, it's a pride thing. It's a little bit older demographic. I see a lot more younger people outside of Ontario that are running businesses today and challenging and taking those steps and not inheriting businesses from their parents or, generational businesses. And I think that's the problem we're having in Ontario. It's like, well, we've been doing it this way for 30 years, so we're going to continue doing it this way for the next 30 years, where we're seeing fresher minds, younger minds in different parts of the country. And I got to be honest with you, without disrespecting my Ontario counterparts, they're better manufacturers than us. They are better manufacturers. They are better operators. They had a smaller market to work with, yet they're very, very successful. And that's my hats off to those in the East Coast. I've always said it's I talk about manufacturing, I talk about people, and I talk about those in the East Coast, and I say, they're really big companies and they're run really, really well, and they're really, really engaged, and you see the successes come out of it. And I don't know how we take that mentality and transfer it over to the rest of the country, but we need it. If we're going to survive this industry, and it's going to be Canadian manufacturers surviving it, we need to change, because we're going to get swallowed up 100%.
Yeah. So driving participation, I mean, you guys have talked about it. We need to do things differently. You need a cause, which is, you don't have a cause every day. You fight your way through the battle. So what can we do as FenCan staffers to help you guys to drive participation? Is it finding a cause? Is it speakers? Is it doing something else maybe that we haven't thought about? So maybe start, who wants to go? Nick?
Well, I found I actually got Layton to send me a list, and I actually started calling everybody and kind of put them a little bit on the spot. And was like, "Okay, you need to come." And actually, we had one of our highest online attendance. So, kind of just.
So, do you
really
think it turns into this email invite? And I'm too busy, I don't have time for that. But you do a personal reach out, and people are like, "Oh yeah, maybe I should be there." Is that what it takes?
I think sometimes you have to pick up the phone. It's like, even, I'll email for follow-ups for clients, and, it always is much better when you actually just pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
Yeah. Anybody else? Rich? Dead battery?
No, it worked.
Okay.
So we do a mix of guest speakers as well as, ongoing business. So usually we'll have a guest speaker, and it varies depending, quite often they're commercial suppliers. So that take up half hour to 45 minutes. And then we have 15, give or take, for ongoing business. And that has been really effective. If it's an interesting topic, we get a lot of attendance. If not, I'll tell you what is a little frustrating, though, is quite often people will turn off their cameras, mute their phones, and that engagement doesn't help. And I can understand, because it's hard to network on a Zoom meeting, but and I know networking is also a big feature that people are looking for. So that's why events like this are great as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got something?
From my side of things, I see a lot of involvement with people who perhaps are the decision makers within their company, or they're at that level where they have the autonomy to participate or go to these functions. And perhaps there's others that do not, where they have to ask for approvals, et cetera. And maybe that person that would have the autonomy or the decision-making permissions to do so isn't so involved. They may be a member. They may have their name within the Fenestration Canada database as the member, participating member, but are not engaged and perhaps don't know. Their company logo comes up sometimes, and you can search for them in the database, but they're not participating and perhaps are not aware of the benefit, not only on the chapter meetings, but generally speaking. I proposed this as an idea a while ago. I haven't dealt a lot with it yet, but I think, how did I word it? Bring your boss to work day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And for myself included, I have a boss. My boss has a boss. How many rungs up the ladder do we go where they don't know what we're doing here? So maybe that's something we can implement and to show that decision maker the value of what everybody volunteers their time for.
Yeah. Are we missing the boat on not getting to other people in the companies that might have interest in topics or speakers or whatever? I mean, either or.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I think that Cam mentioned it during his lean presentation about maybe one manager certified and 2 other non-manager certifications. Certainly, even within my own company at Westech, there are people that would love to participate if given the chance. Shop employees, perhaps, maybe even a driver or swamper would love to participate. And I think that at that high level, the person making that decision to allow them to do that, I think, is missing a little bit.
That's a great point.
I luckily have
Bring your driver to work. That's a great idea.
Yeah, or maybe you swap in and out a driver or a production worker.
Yeah.
To give them that opportunity to see, certainly what I'm speaking about at Westech, when I come to these conferences and people are trying to get a hold of me right now as we speak, and this is what I'm doing here for Westech, for the industry, for Fenestration Canada, for all of our livelihoods. So I think that is important. Maybe we need to go the next rung up to once again show that importance of the volunteer work that happens here.
Yeah, good, Mike.
So I'll say that the board met yesterday, and one of the objectives was to get C-suites and higher.
Yeah.
At a event geared towards them to get their opinion on what they feel the challenges are. So we're talking about like the financial decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mandate that was set by the board to have at Windor, where it's only open to C-suite and above management, ownership, executives. And our belief was that that's going to help drive more people to the events, to the regional chapter meetings, right? Get that higher level that you're talking about, to see the value in it and see that we're listening and we're willing to do things, but you need to support it or you need to send the people to support it, right? One of the two things. And there's going to be a financial commitment. There's some things coming up in NAFs that Adrian was giving me the other day. My simple response was, if my dad sat in that meeting who knows nothing about NAFs, he would turn around and say, how much do you need me to cut the check for? Because it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than going the other way, right? And this is someone who, I respect him. Obviously, he's my father, but he doesn't understand all that things. But from a business standpoint, it's like, okay, I can cut you 20 and you can help take care of it. Or am I going to go and spend 12 to 18 months and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars? That C-suite above is going to be like, cut the check, go and do it, and get it out of my hair so we can concentrate on making windows, or indoors.
Yeah.
And so we are, as a board, we're doing that to help support not only, the AGM and Windor, but also support the chapter chairs. We feel it's very, very important.
An important part of our membership that we rarely actually talk to.
Very,
Yeah.
very rare. Yeah.
Sam, did you have something? No? Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, one of the things I find that sometimes we get I'm going to say focused a little too much, and maybe our membership thinks we're focused too much on just things like codes and certifications and things like that. And we should be, when we come to these meetings, we talk about, there's a lot of talk about codes and that, but I mean, there's other things that would hit the agenda, and maybe we should be doing that more within our our chapter meetings too. Some guys that never seem to show up, they're a big part of our business, but I never see the sales guys at our meetings. It's like, but who usually gets hit with between the eyes with these problems first off? It's the sales guys, but I never really see them coming out to these meetings. So maybe we should figure out a way to reach out, and even within our own groups, to say, hey guys, invite your sales guys to come and let's just have a chat. Really,
Yeah.
just see what comes up.
I think that we are headed that direction. We're seeing exactly what you're talking about. I mean, my world is codes. I mean, that's what I do. So I get tunnel vision. But is Cam in the room? Cam's here. So Cam's with us now, and his is all about the business side. Try and find speakers or content or challenges for the business side of the business, and try and connect to those guys you're talking about, right? So we see it. I'm tunnel vision, so I don't see it as much. But fortunately, there's others around me that are seeing what you're talking about, and we're making adjustments. Rich, go ahead.
So I think it's different message for the different people. So the owners, like Mike was saying, if you don't attend these and get involved, you're not going to have a business to look after. Well, everybody else other than the owners, it's getting the message across that if you want to grow your career, this is the best way to do it, is to get involved. You get excellent connections and you get your name out there. And, I think it's surprising that more people don't want to do that.
And if you get into it for 15 or 20 years and you get on the board and you become president, when they let you go, they hire you. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Said that to Brian yesterday. Almost taught him for 6 years, and you're going to be working with a Starlink satellite and be working off the edge of the
That's awesome. Okay. Did you have something, Alan, or no? Okay. In your specific regions, what's that pain point? Like, what is it that your group typically focuses on? Is it codes? Is it business? Is it, I don't know, like tariff? Today it's tariffs. To Mike's point, we have a pain today that's tariffs. But is that what it is? Is it today's problem and we need to just get on that? And
100%. It changes all the time. Like you say, depends on the time of the day and whatnot. But recruitment was a big labor shortage. Was when we started off. That was absolutely by far.
Yeah.
And now it's changed. There's been a shift. Obviously, tariffs has been huge, and hats off to Adrian on that, because it has been massive. Concern of stress for our members, and they've got a lot of information and value out of it. But when we first started off, it was labor, and that has shifted. Obviously, the economy has changed, and so finding what the next pain point is, wait till tomorrow.
Yeah. Others agree? Is it today's pain point that we need to focus on?
Yeah, for our region, I think,
Site
unfortunately,
testing?
Yeah, site testing. The economy situation right now, it's a big problem with tariffs and labor shortage. Everything is slowing down, marking in some regions. But another thing is site testing in Manitoba, especially in the last 2-3 years. The way especially in public buildings, the government works, the testing specification went to very extreme in some cases. Also, we have lack of good testing agent in our province. There's only a couple of choices you can choose. Another thing I found out is lack of building envelope engineer. Very often, so many projects they don't have any engineer oversees the project. And in those cases, you have the testing agent acting as a building envelope consultant, believe it or not. In that case, I would think it's almost like a conflict of interest. But that's reality in our province. We don't have enough body. We don't have enough engineer. And we have shortage of talent people. That's the biggest challenge right now for us.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Kyle?
I would say all of the above, with a special shout out for solar heat gain issues has been controlling a lot of what we speak about in the Pacific chapter for quite a few years. Codes and regulations, site testing, specification writing. We're kind of much more in that. I think that we probably could. I think you mentioned it, Terry, something on health and safety or human resources, maybe to round us out. But we do touch on quite a few different topics.
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously I'm from BC and I've spent my career there. It's interesting where we are in relationship to how the codes have grown and you know, the enforcement is quote unquote better, depending on your perspective of things, which drives things like the solar heat gain problem, because now you've got, you know, EAs that are driving the industry and making decisions about products that are maybe not the best decisions. And now you're faced as a manufacturer with that problem in BC, really specifically. I mean, we don't hear much about it across the country. Southern Ontario a little bit, I think, but BC, it's a significant problem. Yeah.
I would agree with that, and perhaps to our detriment at times, we're in the epicenter of where that happens, and things kind of spread out. So I think that within the chapters within Fenestration Canada, our struggles in the Pacific chapter can soon be somebody else's struggles, or maybe it just shifts to the east, and maybe some stuff is coming west. So I think it is important that we're not necessarily always working in a silo of a chapter, and maybe we could or should reach out amongst our group.
Yeah, somebody mentioned
more
that.
often.
I don't know who it was that mentioned to me yesterday that chapter chairs sitting in the other chapters, where they're always welcome, of course, any member is, but we don't see enough of that. And that was when I first got involved with Fenestration Canada. That was the first thing that I found to be the most significant value, is now I could talk to a manufacturer 3,000 miles away from me that might be having the same issue, that was happy to share how he solved it, because I'm not competing with them. And you can do the same thing in your chapters, where you have, you know, maybe you have guests from another province that comes and sits in a meeting or something. Mike?
So in Ontario, I would say the biggest thing right now is enforcement, and would be imports of products. And I sit in this room here, I see maybe 3 of us from Ontario, maybe a couple of us only that just operate out of Ontario. It's a big concern in our industry, and I'm not sure how many went down to Glassbill, but I can tell you the certification signs were bigger than the window companies' name. So the import products are coming in. We're seeing, with Ontario being probably the most diverse with respect to ethnic background and immigration, you're seeing the most amount of product. I was having a talk with someone earlier today. I said, I think if we put our mind to it, within 1 hour, we'd find 60 to 70 import window suppliers in Ontario. And a few years ago, I it was predominantly aluminum. So a few years ago, through Fenestra and Fenestration Canada, I would be like, this is coming. I'm seeing it. It's not happening with us because, everyone was going so busy with the COVID time, and production was going crazy. Shipping costs went high. I started seeing it in 2018. It went away for 3-4 years. Well, now it's back, and it's back with a vengeance. And when you don't have the enforcement, which we don't have in Ontario, like your concerns that you guys talk about, like East and Central, just non-existent in Ontario. We sat on calls where they literally told us, well, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
That was the answer. They said,
Yeah.
you expect us to tell the homeowner and the contractor to rip out windows that don't comply? Our answer was yes. Their answer was not happening.
Yeah.
Right. So
interesting your comment about the growth of imports, because I'm sure that Adrian can attest and agree with me that the volume of inquiries that he and I are receiving from offshore companies asking how to get into Canada and what the requirements are, they've certainly gone up. No question about it. Right. So Adrian, yes? Do you want to chime into
I'll
that?
just add a quick note to that. I would say there is probably 3 times as many inquiries about offshore trying to come in than I'm hearing about complaints from our manufacturing here about it. And I am getting complaints. For what it's worth, our non-compliance form is up. We have had 3 or 4 entries, and I get quite a few direct email entries. So I encourage anybody that is having issues with it, send the data. I'm collecting it right now for us to analyze by the end of the year. So
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Would you say that the exporters of products are doing a better job today than they were 18 months ago?
Yes.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would actually, I'll make a comment. And if I had to think about opening up another manufacturing plant, I think North America would be my second or third choice. If I had to speak openly and honestly about that, and I never lie, everyone knows I wear my heart on my sleeve. So they would not make my top. Very tough to make my top two. I think there's advantages that are going to put Canadian manufacturers at a disadvantage. Glass being one of the most prominent issues, and I think our suppliers have done that. I think our suppliers have done that better than our window manufacturers. They've gone and JV'd or opened up facilities that are outside of here. They build the product just like we do, huh? They'll have screws and nuts and punches and die cast parts, and they assemble it and they package it. I mean, a smaller package than ours, but they do all that. And they did it. They did it like, maybe 12, 15, 20 years ago, and have become really good at it. And I think as manufacturers, we better figure that out, because if we don't, I don't think you're going to see a very strong manufacturing period in any market in Canada, is my opinion.
I was at BuildX in Vancouver in February, and there was significantly more window and door manufacturers from outside of Canada than there was inside of Canada. Absolutely. So you're right. You're bang on. Any other key issues?
Yeah, just to go back on the question about what FenCan can do to help for the Quebec chapter, I agree with what everything that's been said, especially with certification, norm, testing. In Quebec, we have probably about 50 doors and windows manufacturer, and a lot of them are maybe smaller than others company that we see, let's say, in the Maritimes, and because of that, they don't have a big staff. They don't have many people that have the knowledge on everything that is happening on when it comes to certification and what's coming next, 27 in 2030. So because they just don't have the staff to know everything about it compared to bigger manufacturers. So to help our chapter is to have some documentation, if we can provide, just and make sure we can simplify it, because sometimes I get confused, and I know my own customer get confused with everything that is happening. So to help them, my chapter, our chapter actually would help to have something to make sure they're updated on that.
Advisory documents,
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Exactly.
Alan?
I have two comments. The first one is about I want to say what challenges our region, and what challenges our region right now. It has kind of a comment that came through Joe Rogers' presentation this morning, where we got into talking about the AHJs. And Joe can stand here and he can say, this is what my recommendation is, but the AHJ are the municipalities. And how many of them are in each province? Well, so whatever Nova Scotia's problem is, times 4 for the Atlantic region, because we have 4 different provinces, each with their own, interpretations that can have effect. In fact, I have a a manufacturer home customer who's come to me and says, so what am I going to do? I'm shipping homes to Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, New Brunswick. What am I, how am I going to look at this, code interpretation? So that's a problem that we have in our region, but it's almost because we don't have a specific boogeyman, if you know what I mean. There's no one person that you can go to and say, let's work this out. Let's solve this issue.
Yes.
So that would be our challenge. And sometimes that kind of shows up in our meetings, because we don't know who to, and then we do have a building inspector who can say, I don't know, hold our hand through it a little bit, but he doesn't have, he can only tell us what he would do and what he's doing and we kind of use him as our foil for a lot of stuff.
He's
like
one
that.
man in an ocean.
Yeah. Right.
Steve and I chat often because he is all over the window side of things and trying to do the best that he can. And in his defense, oftentimes when he is trying to hold a manufacturer's feet to the fire, they reply with, why are you doing this? Nobody else does. So you got to feel for them a little bit too. But you're right, the system's broken. if it's an AHJ that has the last word on how the code is interpreted or what the code says, how can you be expected to sell outside of one little region? Very challenging.
But that's the whole purpose of it.
It is.
The whole purpose is, what we live in is, we live in a society of continuous projects, because we continue to employ people, or it's the reason why I keep my job, is one. And then we can hire consultants, and we do a great job federally on hiring consultants and spend billions of dollars on it, right? To literally not get an outcome is what we need. There's a housing crisis, so they say. We can interpret it in several ways, because there's probably like 40% of the condos in Toronto that are empty. But there's a housing crisis, and the cost is too high to build. But the reason why it's too high to build is because of regulatory, and you have 4 different avenues that want to do it. Then you have your special interest groups, then you have your testing facilities and your CSA and your lab requirements and all that. And what it is, it's we're now in a loop where we just spin our wheels, and where it's going to hurt the small manufacturers to mid manufacturers, and that number is different today. 10 years ago, a small manufacturer maybe used to be a $3 million company. Today, a small manufacturer might be a $20 million company. They're going to suffer. And then the larger companies are not going to have the flexibility to adapt in a quicker way, and those are going to be the challenges. I don't think there's any way we can fix those. We've been trying. I mean, Terry, you and I used to friggin' bark at each other nonstop about this thing, right? Yeah. To one point, when one of the board meetings, I actually turned around to someone and said, "How about if we just told CSA we're not testing our windows? Like, you know what? We're entrepreneurs. We're going to build the best product possibly using our expertise. We're not in the business of putting out faulty product because we'll be out of business. How about we just stop testing? We don't need you." And what's going to happen? Like, I mean, in reality, I don't think anyone can look at themselves here in the mirror and say they want to build a product that is going to fail, because you'll fail in business, right? We'll need to be told how to produce, what to do. But if none of us had to go through all this, then we would have more time to sit down and talk about good practices and how we're going to improve our windows. Like, we're also knowledgeable about that. So I don't know. I just think we're spinning our wheels on this. We're following leads of. I heard one the other day. We're going to have to meet a requirement that would never happen here in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we testing? What are we doing here? This is just ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you on this one, Mike. Did I miss?
There was just one brief comment that I wanted to finish with and it had to do with when you talked about the challenges, and the challenge that we dealt with this past few months was the tariffs and getting the H code change on glass, and everybody was happy with that. But didn't that really expose an incredible weakness in the Canadian market?
Yeah.
And is anybody talking about it? I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure maybe there's having coffee conversations or whatever. But shouldn't we be talking about people would lament about? Oh, I remember when there was a glass manufacturer in Barrie or Owen Sound or Quebec City and things like that, and there isn't anymore.
All I can say is that there are people talking, but that's all I can say on that. So
yeah. And the only thing was that maybe we need to go, like Cam's buddy there who said we need to do some A3 thinking about that maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it.
Jen?
I just want to add a couple comments on Mike's comment on the import product. We've seen that in Manitoba market as well recent years. I'm always curious. If somebody specify they have fancy specs with all kinds of standard, if you import a system from overseas, I assume those glass not IGMA certified. I would think none of them have IGMA certification.
Correct. If they're not being audited or certified to Canadian standards, then yes.
But that doesn't mean that they don't have IGMA standards.
They don't have what? Sorry.
That doesn't mean that they're not tested. Just
No,
because they're not
they're
manufacturing
testing
they're
European standards.
Oh,
but
to
those
European
standards are not compliant for Canada.
correct.
Well, our IG manufacturers, most of them, they need to be IGMA certified.
Yeah, he said
Yes.
IGMA.
Okay. Sorry.
But they can be IGMA certified even if they're producing offshore.
Sure.
They just pay for them to
That's
come over.
what I mean. IGMA has a system check their quality. They can promote it or test it in Intertech. They can say I have krypton, whatever. But who's there ensure they have krypton there or argon? What's the percentage of argon? IGMA is a kind of quality control system. They check them, they certify them. They have to meet certain.
But if they're
standards.
Canadian certified, somebody needs to be inspecting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
Yeah, I think they would offshore would go through the same inspection process as if you manufacture in North America, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my assumption. You know,
But NAV standard is mandatory. You have to meet NAV standard, right? But you don't have to have IGMA
Wow.
certification.
yes, you do.
it all depends. You don't have to be NAFs if you're site building. Let's stop there.
You're going into a conversation that's way outside of this one. That's you know what? Come tomorrow to the Manufacturers Council because we're going to be talking a little bit about what you just said. Nick, was there specific? No, you're good. Okay. Okay, we're close here to letting you guys go. So we obviously have a number of Fenestration Canada staff now. Over the last few years, Adrian, myself, Rich is actually a consultant for us. Who else? I don't know. Lee, right? Yep. Lane, of course. But as far as you guys go, what can we do to make your life easier and to make the chapters more effective, more, more people participating? Like, what can we do to drive activity at the chapter level? I know it's a tough one. I know it is. Rich, anything? Yeah.
No, I've got nothing on that,
Okay.
to be honest.
It's got to be somebody that's got the magic bullet that we can do that'll help you guys,
I'm not sure if there's a magic bullet. I think that awareness with the other chapters, I think would be a big deal, and perhaps more awareness of our own chapters, some of the numbers, the attendance numbers for live events and the meetings. We could probably, myself included, do a better job there. And I would say that, and this has happened to me a few times where I had the luxury of even yourself, Terry, asking you, can you run my meeting for me? I'm on site.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Or Adrian jumped in once or twice for me last year as well. Maybe, so for me, I have that support. I'm not sure if that it likely does go across the chapters, but I think that is a good thing to maybe next level that to keep those meetings on target and with dates and not to be pushed or canceled out.
Consistency of those meetings. You're right.
That's right.
That's a good one.
And I think, I can't remember who mentioned this to me, but it's probably a big thing, a little bit more structure for myself included around the meetings, no agenda, no attenda, right? So
Yeah,
maybe do a better job.
getting
myself.
out, having good agendas, making sure there's good content. Yeah, for sure.
So I would say that our team at FenCan are doing an exceptional job.
They are,
and
man.
and coming from
Great.
where I could appreciate what yourself and Alan and our past presidents had to do. I'll just say this about our team, and which is led by Stefan. Great leadership brings great success.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we're lacking in Canada. No great leaders, no great success.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Hold it at
But
that.
anyways, I'll leave it at that. I can tell you that I feel that FenCan, the team, is doing the best that they can to inform our members of the issues, concerns. We've got podcasts going on all the time. We've got bulletins going out. I don't know if there's anything else more than we can do other than we need to start seeing some failures in our industry. I think that's what's going to make people wake up and realize you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna hear the story and you're gonna be like, they are no longer around. Holy smokes! And I think when that happens,
it's interesting that you say that, because we've seen some of that on the commercial glazier side. And I don't know what event we were at, but there was somebody did a presentation and said that the commercial industry leads the residential industry by about 2 years. When it happens there, 2 years later, you're going to see it in the residential side. So you're right, we might be headed.
That's what's going to happen. John had a comment.
Just before that,
Okay.
hang on one sec. Other things that FenCan's team can do for you guys? Any thoughts on that? You guys are happy that we're doing a great job? We are doing a great job, man.
Yeah. Terry, I would say this meeting, I've heard more conversations about the seasoned veterans in this room retiring or discussing retiring than ever before. There's a lot of tribal knowledge that needs to be passed on, and this group needs to get a younger generation that comes in behind us. And I would suggest that the association would have the strength to be able to provide that type of education, a 101 series type of training for our successors and those that are coming up behind us, because I think that there's not a knowledge on the technical side. There, NAF's 101, you know, like just some of the codes that are going on and trying to simplify it, because it comes in as a black magic and they don't even know where to go.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think we as business owners are good at transferring that information, but you know, like yourself and Cam, we just had a conversation. Like there's a lot of knowledge that, my goodness, you guys have to pass on to these young generation.
John, I turned 65 on Saturday, and that really hurt. That really hurt.
I'm not far behind you, Terry.
Yeah. Other questions? You're never going to get this group like this again. So anybody else have, by request? That's right. Yeah. Anybody got a question for these guys? Patrick, of course, has a question. He always does.
That's what we pay you.
That's right. Yeah. We pay you to ask questions, Pat.
Job. Is this on? This thing's on. Just more points than questions. Use me more. You guys, I don't always get the information when chapter things are coming up. I assume your member communications are going out, but I have a larger list that goes to non-members. And so I need to know every time something is going on in a regional chapter. Okay. That has to be coming to me. And that's the only hope I have of getting it out in the channels.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
So please use me as much as you can on all of that stuff. Love the idea. You guys as regional chapter heads have actually a special opportunity to do what I think it was Rich was talking about, is getting people in the companies other than the C-suite, the plant managers, the shop foremen, all of this kind of thing. The reason they aren't at this thing is because who the hell's going to pay to send half their shop to the other side of the country to go to it, right? Like, exactly.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing regional events. You're right there. So if you're doing targeted stuff that they can drive to, you have an opportunity to bring out really hordes. I mean, you could have something bigger, you know, I don't know. I mean, that might get expensive, but you know, whatever. And by the way, plant tours. I don't know. I started doing it for Top Glass, and it's incredibly popular.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that just seems to be something that adds value, and it's something that not everybody, even if they're in the industry, can always just do, right? Like, you know, so if it's arranged by you guys, so if we're talking about engagement ideas, I found that one to be a good one. So anyway, yeah,
Thanks,
Kyle.
Pat. Go ahead.
I can attest to what Patrick was just saying, because I did look up last night in somewhat of preparation, and he was blasting the Pacific chapter live event through his digital magazine, which I then received as well. So even though he's in Ontario and we're out in BC, So there is.
I'm national. I'm
Yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to be national.
we see it. Yeah.
I talk too much about Ontario, but yeah, I'm yeah. Any
Yes.
of you, please, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. My point there is that it's in action. He will do it. So maybe we need to do a
No, that's
a better
great.
job there.
Thanks, Pat. We'll
Hey,
there's
Terry,
yeah, there is. Yeah.
Terry, just
Sorry. Yep.
the common conversations around imports. I used to compete against imports. Now, in a roundabout way, I work with imports. So don't get mad at me, but but I would say what I try to do is I work with the import companies that want to do the right thing. So they come here fair, right? So there are good import companies coming from Europe that know that the European standards don't work. Now, there's really bad ones. And if you want to attract groups to this group here, there's a lot of manufacturers here. There's a lot of suppliers here. There's no dealers.
Yeah.
It's not the import company that's making the mistake. It's the dealer. And I'm involved in a legal situation right now where the homeowner caught it. They hired a dealer who brought in a product from Europe, self-labeled it their own brand. BC has this thing called the BC Energy Efficiency Act. If you violate it, you could go to jail. It's not enforced. None of the windows meet it. So I get called to site, go look at it. Now I'm working with the lawyer. The lawyer's going to sue the dealer, and it's going to be bad. So the reality is when you talk to the dealers and you ask them, are you aware of this? They have no clue.
No idea. No.
And so if there's a group to attract, if you're frustrated with that part of the industry, bring the dealers to this table, the home hardwares, the one-off companies that
Yeah.
create this name.
Yeah. Great.
There's a huge
Great point.
opportunity there to grow this sector.
Yeah, for sure. Comment? We're almost out of time.
That-
Go ahead. No, go ahead. They don't mind. They'll sit here all night.
Just to Anton's point, I would agree with him. There are companies that do their best, and whether that is full compliance or compliance on a spectrum of sorts to get 95%, 80%, I think, what's reasonable, I don't know. But then bringing in the people to these events, to our chapters, to educate them on non-compliance or negligence in compliance, I think is a good thing. And I didn't think about the Home Depot people, bringing them into a chapter event. So maybe.
Yeah. No, it's good point. Great point. Okay. So anybody else? Last thought? No? So the chapters have been very effective and really valuable to the association and our membership. These people are all volunteers. They all have businesses or they work for somebody. So they are donating their time to drive the chapter activity. We really appreciate it. It's not easy. I know you get onto a call and you're the only person there, and that's frustrating, right? Trying to drive that activity. So it's a tough gig. Give them your support. Come to the chapter meetings. It's an hour out of your month, maybe every other month, maybe. So bring some problems, bring some good stuff, participate in the chapter meetings, because these people need our support, because we need their support to drive what we do. So that's it. I want to thank our sponsors. I'm not going to read them all because we're out of time, but great group of sponsors. Again, we are getting more sponsors at every event that we go to. So obviously that speaks great volumes to the value that they find in doing these events with us. So that's great. 5 o'clock in the lobby, bar crawl. So, and I expect all of you here at first session tomorrow morning. I might not be, but please, everybody else be here. And apparently karaoke. So Jeff's going to do some singing for us. That's great. Jen's probably around somewhere. So 5 o'clock in the lobby, and we'll hoof it over to the first bar. Thank you for a great day. See you tomorrow.